Hey everybody. Okay, so we are back, and if you are still following along, kudos to you. I am going to now demonstrate in this video how we go ahead and open up a Blender file. Actually, we are going to be using in this one we are going to be using one of our head models. Instead of going to the Blender file, I'm just going to use one of the head models, but we are going to open one of these in Blender. If you followed along with my recent, the past two sections of this tutorial, you should have something similar to this going on, if not renamed or something along this process inside your override folder. What we are going to do now is we are going to go ahead and open up one of these head models, and we are going to attach an FHair01 attachment to it. FHair01 is pretty much facial hair 01, which is it's pretty much the option that allows you to click the toggleable face option in the character creation menu that allows the character to either have a beard or what have you, whatever you want to make that there. Also, you can use it for, in this case, not in this case, but well, actually in this case, I made an option to use it for horns. But in some of my previous head packs that I created, I actually made it a clickable option to add horns because some tieflings choose to have horns and some choose not. So we're going to use it to attach a male beard to the head, and then we're going to, if we have time, if I can get through it quick enough, we'll do it to quickly add a male horn, or I say male horn, but a horn to a male head. And as stated, any of these can also be applied to a female face, but as per this tutorial goes, we're just going to use it for a male face. So I'm just gonna jump right into it, so we can save time and get things done. All right. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna go ahead and open up Blender. I usually keep Blender on my desktop. I've cleaned off my desktop for purposes of this tutorial, make things less confusing. But open up Blender wherever you have it. I just simply type Blender for mine, and it opens up here on the computer. Once you got Blender open, you're gonna want to open up one of these faces. I suggest let's open up the face that we worked on the last head 4. Actually head 3, because head 4 was more of my way of showing you. No, we'll open up head 4. Why not? Okay, so I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Import Neverwinter Nights 2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my override folder, which I have here on a quick link. And I'm going to go into my override folder. I'm going to choose PHHM Head 04. Okay, I'm going to click the following options: remove doubles. MDB is a head model because it is. If it's not a head model, we won't click that. And find an armature. Find an armature is going to allow us to automatically, it's going to tell Blender to associate an armature to the model based off the model name, or based off what's in the actual model. If it finds the skeleton in the model, which it will apply it so we can see it visually using the actual this plugin. Now, if you're using FreshFlix tools, there's a different method, but once you get that going, you'll pretty much be seeing what we're about to see in the next screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and double click this, open it up, and here we go. Now, you'll pretty much get this here, this view. If for some reason you're seeing black and no textures assigned, it's simply because your textures are not located in the right directory, which means you want to have your head model and the textures all within the same folder. So if you're working in separate folders, simply just move them all into one folder, then try reopening the MDB. Else you'd have to manually assign them in the textures here, and find each one and assign each one as far as where to go and where to get it. Now, because mine are in the same folder, I'm just going to continue. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to show you my Blender interface and how I work it. That way, if there's any concerns or questions, hopefully this can answer them as far as the way I move things around. So I'm going to go to File, User Preferences. Okay, and one thing I want to do is I want to go to Input, and I'm going to click this here, Emulate 3-button mouse. Now, if you read what this does, it says Emulate middle mouse with Alt plus left mouse. But it doesn't work with left mouse select option. So you can't use this if you have use the left mouse to select. So if you changed your mouse to use the left click to select, then this won't work. But what this does basically, instead of pressing down the middle mouse button, you just gotta press Alt. and that helps me a lot more because the middle mouse sometimes is always wonky, especially if you got one of those wheels that's very loose and it tends to zoom in and out as you press it a lot. It's much easier for me to click this. So I use Emulate 3 button mouse. And what that does is that pretty much allows me to click Alt. And if I left click the mouse, I can navigate and rotate, okay? Now, if I click Alt and Control and I press left click, that'll allow me to zoom in and out, okay? Now, if I press Alt and Shift, that'll allow me to pan, all right? So once again, Alt left click as rotate, Alt Control left click is to zoom in and out, okay? And Alt and Shift is to pan, all right? So that's for navigation. What I'm also going to use is I am going to use the following view. So when I go to view, you'll notice the way it's a lot more. It's very geometrical, and the reason why I do that is because the view that I use is right here, orthographic. And there's two types of view. There's perspective and there's orthographic. Usually for anybody modeling or doing anything with modeling and just pretty much what we're doing here, you want to use orthographic. Usually for animation and for just kind of navigating around, and it's just a variety of other things. You use perspective for the most part. But I'll be using orthographic. Now, if I click perspective, you get this kind of going on. And when you view in perspective, you don't generally get an absolute face to front. You kind of get this fisheye type thing, which is pretty much in terms of a perspective. So the reason why I don't use perspective is because when I go sideways right here and I press Z to see through it, it's not lined up properly. And how we model is you want to be able to model in a very uniform way. So if I go to view again, and also the shortcut is number pad 5, and I click orthographic, and then I go to the same side view, everything is kind of uniform. So if I were to highlight this and move this ear back, I am certain that the other side will move back with it. So that's pretty much how you want to demonstrate how you want to model whenever you're modeling a Neverwinter Nights 2 head. And any other game for the most part, this is how you'd want to model. When you're doing box modeling, you want to use this view as well. And you get these little kind of graphs behind here, these little boxes, which will help you measure if you're trying to do something or trying to achieve some sort of goal. When you're modeling. Not really important for this tutorial, but just good to know overall. All right. So lastly, what I want to do is I want to give you my shortcuts for navigation. All right. So I'm going to press Z just to jump out of there, go into solid mode. And pretty much what I want to show you how I navigate is simply I use the following. So I tend to hit number pad 3 a lot, and that'll take us to the side view, which what we do when we want to pick up the head, move the head sideways, and kind of get the neck situated. And then I use control number pad 1, and that puts us to face the front. Now, normally control number pad 1 is back view, I believe. Yes. But for some reason, Neverwinter Nights 2 has their models all facing backward in the scene when you import them. Most other games usually have it 1 where they're facing this way. But for some reason, Neverwinter Nights 2 has theirs facing backwards based off, I'm assuming it has something to do with the program they made it in. And which is actually how it's made it harder for people to do animations as well. Because if you were stealing animations from a model, usually animations are made. And how animations are done is they pretty much, every movement made, it saves coordinates. So when you're trying to do an animation and you're trying to apply an animation from a different game into Neverwinter Nights 2, it all comes out wonky and backwards because the Neverwinter Nights 2 model is actually facing backwards. So it just gets really confusing, which is why you don't see a lot of animations going on in Neverwinter Nights 2. Though, it's a little more challenging. But I won't get into that as much. So that being said, the ones I said I'm using once again are number pad 3. If you see me do this, I'm just hitting 3 on my number pad. And then whenever I tend to tilt a little bit and move around. If I ever want to straighten out, I just simply hit control number pad 1 and I go back to there. There is also hitting 4 on your number pad will kind of give you a tilt, a rotate, an absolute rotate of I think about 15 or so degrees. And then the same thing goes for 6. So 4 and 6. All right. Now if you were to go to 7, that gives you a top view. And 8 will give you a tilt backward. and 2 will give you a tilt forward. So if you look at your number pad, and some of you may on your number pad have arrows. 8 will be up, down will be 2, left will be 4, and right will be 6. And then 5 will, I'll get back to that right now as I go back here. 5 is to change from perspective to orthographic view. All right, so now that I've explained those, I'm going to continue on with adding a beard to the face. So what I'm going to do first off is whenever I open up the Neverwinter Nights 2 model, I always tend to go in the scene here, and I go ahead and turn off the visibility for the skeleton. All right, because we have no need for it. You can even turn off this selection if you want to, in case, just to play it safe. And I'm also going to go into texture mode. Like I said, your textures should be showing as long as they're within the same folder. If they're not, I advise you to go ahead and restart placing them in the same folder and restarting. Because I can easily show you how to assign them, but I don't want to take away from this tutorial to do simple things like that. So it's the easier fix. All right. And so what I'm going to do now is we notice we have a head option and we have an eye option, but we don't have an FH hair 01 option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull from a blend file that I already have made. It should be within your Blender files if you downloaded all the files. And if you look under your Blender scenes, there's a file here called Male F Hair 01 Options. Now I should have named that Male just FH Hair 01 Options, which I probably will after this, because it's not really predominantly made for males. You can put female. There's some female options in there too if you want females to have beards, or if you want them to have horns, because I also have the horns in here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this file to show you what's in it. Okay, so you may have seen a quick blip on the screen simply because I had to cancel out the remainder of the last tutorial. My microphone did that wonky thing again where it decided to stop working on its own. I'm not sure why, but I like to think that my microphone is that advanced that decides when it wants to work. But ultimately, the real reason also was because the Blender file, I was having some issues and I was trying to troubleshoot it live, and it was not working out for me. So I'm just going to continue from what I figured out now and how I'm going to do it. So what I did here is that when you open up this Blender file, you're going to have all of these set beards and set horns on this face. This face is actually not part of the textures provided in one of the faces, but I just threw it in there because, hey, why not? A free face. Now, even though these beards are fitted onto this face, they should fit properly on the other faces, considering that this face itself is the same size roughly as the default Neverwinter Nights 2 face, which in turn would be the same size as the Dragon Age faces that I provided because I made it that way. Pretty much what you have here in the scene is you have, they're based off names. I may rename them towards the end. That way you have all the beards on the bottom and all the horns on the top, because at the moment you have some beards, then you have these horns, and then you have more beards. And it's primarily because it's descending or ascending from alphabetical order. And that's why. So I may rename them, because here in this file I have them named temporarily under things that I can kind of quickly identify. If they have weird names, it's for my own reasons. Is why I named them that way. So pretty much what we have here is we have all of the beards on this bottom part, and pretty much here. Let me go ahead and disable the head. We don't need to select that. Okay. And then we have all the beards here. And I'm going to do a quick fix as I'm seeing this video now. Is if we notice, it's not really, the beards aren't really perfected on the, that should be about right there. I believe that makes it a little bit better. Pretty much what we have here is all the beards, and what you're going to do, what we're going to use these beards for is simply for pulling them and putting them onto our new face model. And I don't think my horns are straight here either, or are they? Let's see. Kind of using this as my measurement guide. Kind of seeing how much the tip here pops out. And here, it's pretty good. I'll also show you how to edit those using the other blend file. But this is pretty much what we'll be getting here. And this is pretty much what you'll be using. I'm going to drop this down now because I'm going to show you how to pull a beard. Now, Before I do that though, right quick, I'm just gonna turn off all the beards and show you one at a time. Okay, so just kind of like there's more beards up here, and I'm gonna turn off the horns for that very same reason. Turn these down, disable those. We don't need those on. Sorry for the live edits here. Okay, so pretty much we have like just different types, and based off the one that you like for the face you're trying to create, that's what you would want to take note of the name here. And for example, I see this one I'm going to use. It's called Gnome Beard with Wizard Stash. And like I said, I just named these what's easily identifiable, easier to identify for myself. If for some reason they don't work with you, you can go ahead and go into this file yourself if you have the copy, which you should, and rename them yourself. But what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to steal this facial hair option, and I'm going to put it on our new face. So to do that, I'm going to go into our other blend file. In this case, I have to open up a new scene because I did start the tutorial over. If you're following, well, you should be following along from the last tutorial. You would already have this open. So I'm just going to go to quickly import and play catch up. Remove doubles, head model, armature check, override my mod faces. And I am going to click face, I think it was face 4 we were working on. Okay. And so this is face 4. As we know, I'm just going to go back into it. So what I did is I turned off the skeleton and I locked it in place. And the head model here, and I should have stated this earlier. Whenever you open up your face, always click these two options. I mentioned it in the first tutorial, very first one, I think. And I never mentioned it again, but that very first tutorial, I believe, was overwritten because of some errors in recording. But whenever you, I'm just going to reiterate again, but whenever you open up a Blender scene or a head or any type of model, you always want to make sure, because the plugin doesn't set this for you, you always want to make sure the first thing you do is go into the materials section here, which is pretty much this little circle, okay? It's more of a sphere. And you're going to click on each one, and then you're going to go into shadows. Shadows will, you're looking at it like this, you'll have to scroll down. Go ahead and decollapse shadow and click receive. And the same thing goes for the head. Go ahead and expand that and then click receive. Okay? And that just ensures that whenever we export, when we're ready to export, that we ensure that this head and the eyes will cast shadows. So that being done, what I'm going to do now is I am going to append. And now what append does is it pretty much allows you to pull an object from one Blender scene to another. So we're pretty much going to pull Gnome Beard with Wizard Stash from this scene onto our new scene. So we're pretty much going to yank something from one file to another. So to do that, go to File, and you're going to go to Append, otherwise Shift F1, okay? Press that, and then navigate over to your blend scene. I don't want to explain why this is here. If you see that, that's completely normal. Just know that much. So I'm going to go back to my original blend files, my mod files, which is on desktop DAI faces. Okay. And I'm going to go into my Blender scene and Blender's blend scenes here. I'm going to click Male F Hair 01 options, because that is the name of this blend scene here. Okay. And it's going to say, what do you want to pull, pretty much? And you have options. You have armatures, brushes, images, lamps, and all the etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull an object, because that's what these are. Objects are anything within the scene. And objects are usually accompanied by this little square. Okay? And so we are looking for the one that we wanted to pull. And if you remember, I said recently we're going to pull Gnome Beard with Wizard Stash. So that's the one we're going to pull. And it should be in the same order as you see it in the scene. Because I haven't renamed them. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one. I'm going to double click, and voila, it pops up. Okay. So just right off the bat, I can tell it's not straight. That's just the way things are. I may have done that when I made that quick edit recently, where I moved these beards on over. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the thing and click the beard. And I'm not going to go into heavy modding, because I don't want to get into that and make this a long tutorial on how to heavily mod a beard. But there are ways to form this beard to how you want it. And I can show you quickly, but I won't get really into it so much. If it's something people would like, I can make a tutorial on that real quick. But otherwise, I won't be getting too much into it. So I'm gonna press G for grab, and I'm gonna click X, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna click G for grab, and then press X to lock it on the X axis, which is left and right. And then I'm going to move it on over till I see I'm looking on the sideburns there, and I'm kind of looking at how it fits, like how it matches there. I'm just trying to find it evenly. Now, if you have troubles moving it too fast, you can always hold shift, and shift will help you get a more precise movement. It pretty much slows down your movement style. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Then I'm gonna press 3, and I am going to press G for grab, and I'm going to press Y for the Y axis, which is front and back. I'm just gonna kind of pull it up a little bit. Okay. Now, I'm realizing as I pull it up, the sideburns I really want to stretch out. Now, as I said, these beards were made for a different set of models, but I'm making them work for this one. So, when you import these beards, you can I can fix them all. I may try, if I have time, I'll fix them all so that way you don't have to go through this process. But this is also good to know in case you want to move the beards around and trim some stuff. So instead of grabbing it, moving it forward, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press S for scale, and I'm going to scale on the Y-axis. Now the Y-axis is front and back, whereas X is left and right. And I'm just going to kind of pull it out some. Now I notice it's pulling from, see how it's pulling right there? So I'm going to kind of make up for that slack that it has between the ear and that sideburn hair. And I'm going to stretch it out just a little bit more, about right there, just because I want to be able to pull it back in. So I'm going to press grab and Y and bring it on back. Okay, just enough so it's kind of, it fits more around the hair. Now, these are pretty puffy cheeks, whereas the last model, I think, may have also been puffy cheeks. But really, you can go ahead and you can pull this out if you like. It's a little tricky to do that. Like I said, I don't want to get into the specifics of how that works, but I'm just going to scale on the X and show you how much you can actually pull out. If you want to pull out more like that, you can, except that now you've got to pull these in. So since we're in that scenario, what I'm going to do to do that is I'm simply going to click the beard. I'm going to select all of it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to X mirror. That turns on we're going to modify one side, and it's going to mirror on the other side. Okay. And then we're going to turn this on enable and just click like one point here. And then go ahead and hold G. And this is what this does. This is called proportional editing. I should have told you that earlier. You want to turn this on. What proportional editing does is it allows you to edit an area based off a brush size instead of just that one point or selecting a face or a line. So I'm going to press G for grab. And if we move, we're going to see this is going to happen. And this should not be happening. The reason why this is happening is because we have X mirror on, and it's only adjusted to one side because in the last file, I did something that caused them to do that, and I just haven't really fixed it. So you're going to press A. And then you want to just make sure you click symmetrize. And what that's going to do now is it's going to make sure that everything is mirrored with the left and right. So now when I click this, I'm working, whenever I pull out on the left here, it's pulling out on the right. But the only reason it's pulling out so much is because if I zoom out, and since I have proportional editing highlighted, it automatically gives it this big giant brush when I press G, you see? And so what I want to do is I want to bring that in. And if you happen to move it as you bring it in like this, and you're trying to straighten, like, oh crap, I screwed it up, that's fine. Just press Control Z. Now to bring in and out that brush, just simply use the middle mouse scroll in and out, okay? And then whenever you have it set up, whether you move this, just press Escape because it saves the brush size, all right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make that brush just enough to affect this ear part, this part right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and click this point, and I'm also going to click this point because I want to move them together. I want to make sure my influence is just that positive on it. And I'm going to kind of bring it in just a little bit, just to kind of push it into the skin, okay? Now, this also works with if you want to pull out the beard and turn it at this angle and just kind of pull out some here, pull it in more, up to you. But that's proportional editing in a nutshell. Now, you'll also be using this method for doing your face, and if you want to modify your face and make your ears longer, wider, you also do that too. That's an advanced technique if you want to use it. If it becomes too confusing, just go ahead and disregard it and just import the beard as is. I feel like they do justice as they are. You may have to, like I said, kind of grab everything and just like move it. Well, before you do that, make sure you take off X mirror and move it as a whole. Just kind of recenter it how you like, how you see fit, okay? And I'm just gonna leave it like that. It may not be perfect, but in game when it renders, you won't even notice that these two may be offline just a little bit. And just kind of, I'm holding Alt and left click, and I'm just kind of looking around, and it looks good. It looks good to me. So now that you have that positioned, that portion is done. Now comes the I guess the technical work, and by technical work, it's just naming and making sure you have everything correct. Now, each head is allowed only one F hair option, or facial. I'll say facial hair option, but if I say F hair, it's the same thing. So in each scene, you're only allowed one facial hair option. That could be whatever you decide. It doesn't have to be a beard. It pretty much, the F hair option or the facial hair option is an option that when you're creating your character and you click facial hair and you toggle that on and off, that allows whatever you have on here to pop up. If I were to give him giant earrings and I made that the facial hair option and I clicked toggle on and off, instead of a beard, those earrings would pop up and pop out. So in this case, this is what happens. Toggle on. Let me click off it. Toggle on, toggle off, as if this was the character creator mode. That's what that allows you to do, having that facial hair option. But in order for it to see it as a facial hair option, we have to name it as a facial hair option. And there's a certain way that the engine reads it. So what we do is we're going to go into our head here, okay? And we're going to copy here. We're going to copy the name, okay? Just go ahead and highlight that. Press Control C to copy. Okay, and then we're going to click on the beard and press Control V to paste, but we're going to also write underscore F hair 01, okay? And then we're going to click off of it. And now that tells the engine that this is the facial hair option. And don't be confused. Just because there's 01 does not mean you can have 02, 03. It's hard-coded within the game itself to only read one hair. I've tried it. If someone else can revolutionize it and make it where you can do that, that'd be awesome. But I don't see that happening anytime soon, considering this game has been out for X amount of years and still we're struggling just to get this much done in a tutorial. All right, so pretty much now that we have that done, we're going to kind of follow the same technique as we follow with doing heads and eyes. And if you've seen any of my older tutorials for anything, pretty much, you have to make sure the three things match. And when I say the three things, here's what they are. So you're going to highlight your name, the object name here, and press Control C to copy that. And then you're pretty much going to work from left to right, starting with here, this little wrench. And the wrench is pretty much your modifier. You're going to want to make sure the following is selected. If you don't have this option set up for some reason, what you want to do is go to Add Modifier, go to Armature, and then you're going to search for an armature within the scene. Now, we have this armature here, the skeleton. Okay, if for some reason you imported and you didn't get the skeleton, I'm going to delete this for now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And you have no skeleton, you won't be able to import, you won't be able to find a skeleton because it's going to try to find a skeleton with the scene. Furthermore, you've also broken the connection between your head and your eye and the skeleton because it needs one. So I'm just going to go to File, Append. Okay, now I'm going to append the skeleton from this scene because this scene here actually does have a skeleton. Now, natively, see how it has the skeleton? Normally, if you remember correctly, when I did the append, you saw these list of list of skeletons. If you see that, you can use that as well. That's because the plugin itself has preset skeletons you can pull from. But since I'm pulling from another scene already, it's going to go off the last scene you pulled from. So I'm just going to stick to that. Okay. So Option. Here it is. I'm sorry. Don't pull the armature. Go into Object and pull the object. Okay. Because that's what you need. You need an object in the scene. So PHHM skeleton. and it should pull now, and you just have the skeleton. It's the same exact one. It's just you need to have a skeleton in the scene in order to reference your files to it. So in this case, since I deleted my skeleton, and then this is the case in case yours didn't import correctly, just go to I and do the same thing. This should already, if it's red, that means it's missing something. So you're gonna look for it, and now you'll see that it has a skeleton to link to. The same applies for head, skeleton link to, and if this one, as I said, you may have to add the armature and go to skeleton here. And then what you want to do is I like to do this because sometimes it matters. Most times it matters with this plugin, and you press Control C, just highlight over it. Since you really can't, I mean, you can go like this and just go to edit, copy. But if you just, in Blender, if you just hover over something, you can press Control C, and then how it highlights when you go over here, press Control V, and it writes into it. I'm going to do the same thing here, just make sure those are all set, just as those are, okay? So back to where we were. I'm going to go ahead and hide that. I'm going to go into the skeleton, to the F hair option, the facial hair option, and I'm going from left to right. So on the left side, we have here the PHHM scale, that's correct, that's all you need. Then we're going to go over to the mesh. Now, when I say the three things match, the three things match is the object's name must match the mesh and the material. See how they have a name here? And you can tell they're all just three different names. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this again, okay? And we're working in the mesh, and I'm going to click paste, all right? And then what I want to do is leave all of these alone. There's no need to, actually, you're going to delete all of these. I'm sorry. This is a beard. I forgot we're not doing a head. I'm going to delete the vertex color files. It's no need. If you don't delete it, that's fine. It doesn't really do anything. And I'm going to delete all of the groups because these groups shouldn't matter. Now, in the final product, I'll probably go ahead and do that for you. The only reason I haven't done it is because it was a process that I used, and it was mainly, I had not prepped this for distribution. But in this case, if for some reason I did not delete any, make sure your vertex groups are empty, because you're going to hit the plus sign here and create your own. And you're going to highlight here, and you're going to name this head, okay? And pretty much what this is going to do is this is going to tie all of the weights from this beard onto the head, which is what you want to do. There are advanced methods if you want to make sure the beard moves with the lips, if you have cutscenes enabled and stuff like that. I haven't tested that. I know some mod makers like to have cutscene enabled where the player's talking and the mouth moves. If you have this all tied to head, just the mouth will move, and this won't move unless the entire head moves, which in a sense is realistic enough, okay? Because maybe when you smile, you'll notice a little difference where the cheeks will rise here and not so much the hair. But I think for the most part, it works. It gets it done. You won't even notice it, as far as I believe. I haven't tested it, but that's just my theory, okay? So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode with the beard on. You can press tab, or you can press go here and just go to edit. Okay, press A to select all, and pretty much all of these vertices you're going to assign to the head by clicking assign. Make sure your weight is on 1. It should be by default. And you're assigning the weight to the head. Okay, now to look at that, pretty much you can go into weight paint, and it should all be red now. And the more red, that means the more it's assigned to that bone. Okay, so I'm going to click Control Tab to go in and out of that, or you can just go back into object mode. And then we're done here. That's all you need to do for this tab. Now we're jumping on to materials. Once again, the three things. Does the name match the mesh and match the material? So I'm going to copy the name again, and I'm going to hit Control V on here. And then you may see 2 of them. Sometimes you may see 1. The reason that being is because it's identifying as with nodes. Okay? So if you want to, just one thing that you should check is just this box here that turns off nodes. We're not using nodes right now. There's no need for them. It won't affect the render, but it just makes things a lot easier. I will try to make sure to have this checked too on the final product, but for some reason, as I said, same with these things, if they're not automatically deleted, just make sure that nodes, if you're seeing 2 materials there, it's because it's identifying with the node. So you just turn that off, and the reason how you know it's off is because it's not pushed in, so therefore it's not darkened. All right. So as I said, the 3 things: this object matches the mesh, and the material. Now Neverwinter Nights 2 will be able to show it in game. If for any reason these are not named, what will happen is when you click the toggle hair option, nothing will pop up because it needs to identify these three as matching. Okay, because it needs to be able to find the object, and the object needs to be able to identify the mesh and the weights, and the object needs to identify the material and its textures. If one thing or another is missing, it won't identify anything at all. Okay. Now, if for some reason you play the game and your game just crashes and it just auto exits as soon as you click on the beard option or the face, it's more likely because you didn't have this set. What happens is the game is set to crash if it can't find the skeleton file, and that goes for the head and eye as well. Just future reference for anybody creating or using heads and creating heads and they get that issue. Okay, so you want to make sure those are there. That's just troubleshooting 101. Okay, so what we're going to do is leave that as is. Don't worry about this stuff right here because hair shouldn't have specularity. And if you want to actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Hair I put it on 1 because I like to give it a good shine. And you'll see what that looks like in game. It gives it a good bump. And I'm going to leave it as is. Okay, because the specularity map itself in the alpha channel of the normal map will give it a little bit of a bump. So it'll allow the hair to have a little bit more texture to it. So I'll try to make sure I have those set too in the final file. But for some reason, if that's not set, just turn it up to 1. Okay, you can also click in here and just type in, it'll be at 0, click it and type 1. Okay. And then we're also going to go to our textures. Now, these needn't be set. These are already set. Actually, they do need to be set. It's a good thing they're like this. In the final product, once again, I will have these automatically set for you. But in the case that you don't see hair_straight_thick D2, because it should be 2 because it's a secondary file I made. And if we go into the textures here that it's pulling from, okay, I'm going to pull the FH hair 01. I might rename these two in all the files if I get a chance. The hair, it's actually called hair straight thick D2 instead of the regular. The reason I named it D2 is because I made a clone of the original hair texture files and I added a little bit of bump and depth to them. And I didn't want to override the old ones because I never do. I always like to keep the vanilla files as some sort of backup, and I just never updated it here. But we'll go ahead and fix that in a moment. Actually, we'll do that now. So what I want to do that is I am going to, first off, I'm going to create the files in my mod folders. What I'm going to do, and since this is pretty much this hair, by the way, these textures are used for all the beards and all the mustaches. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to go ahead and highlight these. I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste them inside my mod face folders. Hair straight thick 2 D2, hair straight thick in D2, hair straight thick T2, and that's the tint. And that's the files if you need to see them. We don't need to see them. But what I'm going to do is now I am going to associate this beard to my new file. And as I said, I'll try to do that for you automatically. So that way you don't have to worry about doing this part. But since it's here, it's an opportunity to learn it. All right. So what you want to do is leave everything as is. If there's a blank spot here, that's fine. Don't worry about that. You can move this up if you like, but I tend to just leave it alone because Blender has its own way of moving around the files. You could accidentally, by moving this around, screw up the way it sees things, and now it's going to think this is a tint map. It's happened. It's just a buggy thing that happens sometimes with some of the files. So I tend to just leave them alone because Blender knows what's what, and that's how it operates. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go down here to where it says source, and I'm going to click this little icon here that says open a file browser, and blah, blah, blah. So click that, and then go ahead and navigate to your override where you have your mod faces, and now click that first one, hair straight thick D2, because it's a diffuse map that you have inside your override folder. And now you'll notice it's changed here, and then you're gonna do the same thing for this one right here for open image, and then it should save where you last had your images opened at, and you're gonna go to hair straight thick D2. Click that, and then same thing goes for here, except that you really can't. Did I select the right one? I'm sorry, 1 second. I think I gotta take off relative path. I shouldn't. D2. Okay. Oh, I'm not sure why that's doing that. I really hate it when things happen that aren't supposed to happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I am going to go to try that one more time. Okay, it's so upsetting when things don't work out the way they're supposed to. So I'm just gonna manually rename it. Okay, so I'm just gonna put take away PNG. I'm just gonna write D2 here and press enter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control C and just name Control V here. So that way it knows. You can manually type it in. I was just trying to show you the proper way to do it. Obviously, the proper way that I was doing it was probably not proper. I may be having some sort of panic. I don't know, but I just don't want to sit here figuring it out forever. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to rename this to Hair Straight 2. I'm going to press Control C and Control V. Now, this is not so important. The reason why I did this is because it's a process I do that I always find safer. As long as this is correct, that's the name of the file it's going to look for. The extension doesn't matter. You don't have to write PNG, TGA, or .dds. It doesn't matter. As long as it finds a TGA or a DDS file that has this name inside your override, you're gold, which it does. Okay? So after that's done, I'm just going to go back and check one more time, just kind of give you a quick rundown. We renamed this to be the name of the head model, the beard underscore F hair 01, which is facial hair 01. We made sure that our armature is applied in our modifiers. In our mesh, we made sure our object name matched our mesh name. We made sure that all of our vertices were selected in edit mode and applied to a new we deleted the old weights. You shouldn't be seeing them in the actual files. If I keep on my word and clean it up as I said I would, you should have added a new vertex group and named it head. And then select all of the vertex and then click apply in edit mode, as so. And I'm going to do it again just to show you, just like that. And then apply all of those vertex to the head. Okay. And then you could have optional deleted vertex colors. It doesn't matter if you do or don't. I just do it just to play cleanup. Okay. And then we navigate over to our materials channel and we make sure our object matches our material name. So that way, Neverwinter Nights 2 can know what to pull from the materials. And we wanted to make sure that our intensity is 1 for beards. For horns, you'll want to set that leave it at 0 or 0.5, your choice. You can play around with those numbers if you'd like. For beards, as I stated, we wanted to make sure that we have this on receive shadows. In this case, leave it as is. It doesn't matter because it's really, these beards really are kind of like cards. And when I say cards, I don't want to confuse you more, but pretty much if we look at this from this point of view, a beard, it really is not a round object. It is in fact a card. And I have proportional editing on, disable that. If you look, it is kind of like, it's called a hair card. And pretty much it's just a flat object with a hair texture on it, which is pretty much this. If you look at this, it's pretty much just grips of hair with an alpha channel to kind of say, it's really all just flat lines, but we drew a channel around it, an alpha channel to kind of say, hey, feather it out a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty much what that is. And so the reason I say that, that's why it's not important for shadows for beards. For horns, you may want to turn on that option to receive shadows. And as I showed you in here with doing it the heads, you want to make sure receive and send are on. Okay. And one second. And we also want to ensure that our textures resemble the correct name. In this case, hair straight underscore D2, hair straight thick underscore into. And as stated, this may change. This you may link yourself if you so choose. I haven't tested it without it. I think it won't be a big deal because this only matters to the local file itself. It's not like Neverwinter Nights 2 looks in this apparent directory for the file. It only matters what's here because it needs to know that this is the name of the image that it's looking for and that the name of the texture of the image. So you want to make sure these two go hand in hand, okay? So you can manually write it in yourself, just hair straight thick 2. As I said, if I keep my word and edit the blend scene, you shouldn't have to do it yourself anyway. I should take care of that for you. But always good to know what you're working with anyway. And we're done. So all we have to do now is export this head and test it in game. So to do that, we are simply going to go ahead to File, Export, File, Export. Come on, dude. File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2. And as I said, don't mind this because this is from the Fresh Look tools, which I was testing this product. Very good product, by the way. But for this tutorial, I'm using the older plugin. So Neverwinter Nights 2.mdb. Okay, I'm gonna click that, and these are the following options to check for a head model. Okay, mesh is a head, smooth TS seams, cutscene. That is all. You needn't select the rest because the rest don't really do anything. This one right here, people have said, I think it's come up in different conversations. Yeah, it's just you need to have this if you have an alpha channel. No, this flag pretty much sets a parameter having to do with gradients in an alpha channel and having to do with a certain intensive alpha intensity. I can show you a link from the Neverwinter Nights 2 wiki where it states what it does and how it affects. And but I don't want to waste time doing that right now. Just these three are all you need to check. Okay, we're gonna go to our face where we have it. We're working with phase 4. Just go to click on it and then go to export, which means we're gonna override. And just press export to Neverwinter Nights 2. It should take a second like this. If for some reason you get a black box here with a bunch of Python script, pretty much something went wrong. And that is an issue in itself. I can't give you troubleshooting techniques here. All I can say is double check everything. Usually when that happens, it's something to do with the weights. Either the weights are off, either you had something, if you didn't click, this is a head model, and your groups don't look like this. Instead, they say B245, B54, B50. It's because you didn't open the scene as a head model. That's fine. Don't freak out. All you got to do is save this scene as a blend file. Name it temporary. And then reopen a new scene, a new Blender scene. You can have various scenes open at once. Okay. Re-import the head as a head file and then append this newly beard that you pulled. If you did all the work, just append it from this scene by going to File, Append, and pull it from your scene that you just created, the one that you just named it temporary. Okay, that's an easy fix. I don't know how much times I just gave up and redid it all and said, you know what? Sometimes creating a process is much easier, and that's what all of this is. It's a process. I put all of these in here in this file so you can append because I wanted to do away with the one-on-one process where you're creating one head and restarting from scratch when it's all about workflow, because time is a precious thing. All right, now that that's saved, I am going to go ahead and fire up Neverwinter Nights 2. Press yes. Well, I have to press yes. I don't know what pops up for you. Well, that's booting up. I'm going to have a drink. Some peach tea. Okay, gonna pull that up. Not multiplayer. Gonna go to new game. Okay, gonna go to new module as always. Uninvited guests. All right. You can go into whatever module you want. It's sometimes you have your own custom hairs in your mod. You can even test these by hopping into an actual server, because some servers have preset hairs and you can test them with their faces. I mean, not with their faces, but with their hairs and stuff like that, because it does override the first vanilla files. All right, and I'm going to go to create character. I'm going to select human. And by the way, just a sneak peek, I'm working on some, oh, I took it out, never mind. Don't worry about what I was about to say. Okay, so next, go back 3 paces to make it a bald head. Now, granted, this was an experimental head that we made. Head 4, like I said, it's using this face texture with this bald head, no shine on the hair. So you're going to kind of get an unrealistic hair sample of the face, but with a dullness of a bald head. And that's what I mean. And so there's our beard. Looks pretty cool, right? Are you not seeing it? Is it just me? Okay, so toggle facial hair option. If you notice on these ones right here, it's not selectable because there is no, within the blend scene, object called phhm head 04 underscore fh hair 01. If you had named this fh hair 02, if you had put a little a typo in there, it's going to do the same thing. It's not going to pop up. It needs to be named this, and these two, both mesh and material, need to have the same name as well, Because we did do it correctly, it pops up and we click it, and now we have our facial hair option. Let's go back in, and the only way for me to finally see what I did wrong is by opening up the MDB cloner tool and opening up the file and finding out what I did wrong. I'm going to go to override, mod faces, and let's see, head 4. And so what I didn't do, what I failed to do, was apply the tint map to the face, which I will have to do in the Blender file. So that's my fault. So in order for us to do that, I have to simply just copy this name and then paste it in here, and then write T2 and then press save clone. It's going to say overwrite this face. Yes. Now, because in our override, we already have that T2 file, we're gold. We don't need to restart the game because it already started up the entire game with that file associated to the module. I just didn't link it to the face. So I'm going to click off of it. I'm going to click back on it. And now we have our hair colors. And as I said, it pulls from the actual hair. So if you have hair, you have white hair up here, you know, it's going to help unify some of the hair option there. You can play around with this in the tint maps, up to you. I'm just showing you the basics of it, but for the most part, and the reason why we turn that specularity up to 1, when I had mentioned it here on the materials, we put this at 1, is simply because it allows the specular map that I created for these faces to kind of pop a little bit more on the inside. It makes the hair, you really can't tell unless you get really up close, but it helps create some sort of realism to the face. Now, this is what the hair, the face, the body, I mean, the face looks with an actual outfit. Like I said, I don't like viewing things with this on. Okay? And this is pretty much it. All right? So now that we've done that, I'm going to tell you now, simply put, the same applies for horns. Okay, now I don't want to make this tutorial really long and show you how to do horns and how to do all that. So I'm going to make this very quick, actually, and I'm going to kind of run through it and show you how fast, at a real-time speed, how fast it is to apply horns onto a head or apply a beard. In this case, I'm going to do horns now, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean when I say do horns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this, okay? And bam, we're just back to square one with everything going on. What I want to do is I want to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and lower that and make sure my audio was still recording. Okay. I am going to go ahead and I am going to decide on what pair of horns I want to pick up. And there are different ones. There's different horns for different styles. I am simply going to pull horn set 3. Okay. So to do that now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to append, like I said I did before. So I'm going to press Shift F1 because that is the shortcut for append. And since I'm already kind of associated with this last file that I appended from, if not, I navigate to it. I'm going to check horn set 3, pull it in just like that. Now I'm not going to go and get all crazy and fancy and set it up. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it a little bit and say, okay, press 3, press grab, press Y to grab it, move it forward, bring it in like that, kind of look at it. Now, if I press Z twice, I'll be able to see something like this going on. Now, I did that on purpose because what I want to do is I want to go ahead and click some points here. Okay, first I'm going to select all. All right, I'm going to press W. I'm going to symmetrize, and it's already symmetrized, which means I just want to make sure that everything matches the point. This point matches the exact same as this point. And then I'm going to turn on X mirror. All right, I'm going to turn on proportional editing, enable. I'm going to press G. Once again, if you're like all the way out here, just scroll your mouse in, press escape once you set it to how you want it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of bring this in. And as I bring it in, because it's on X mirror, it's bringing in the other side just enough so I can kind of cover my ground to make sure that it's not sticking, there's no holes or no creeps or crevices inside, just enough that it reaches inside the head. Now, that's all I want to do, okay? Now, you can adjust these to how you want. You can select, just since you have X mirror, select one, move it out, the other one moves out. You can bring them in, you can rotate, you can make them however you want. You can even scale them if you want those big giant horns, okay? Bring them in, and it's kind of like, you know, just play around with it. You can do something like that, and that's by selecting all. You know, you can do that. Up to you. It's your choice. I'm gonna undo because I'm just gonna keep it simple. All right. So I just want it like this. All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and straighten out. So after I do that, I'm just gonna follow the simple process. I'm gonna copy the name of the head. All right. I'm gonna click Control C. I'm gonna paste it over the object name and click underscore F hair 01. All right. And then I'm going to copy the hair 01, Control A, Control C. And to save me time, I'm just going to do this now. I'm just going to paste it over the name of the mesh. And if you get this .001, that's fine. It's trying to say that there's already there was already at some point in this Blender scene, there was already a file with that name in it. So you just click it again and it overwrites the original, saying this is the one, this is the original one, and it makes that other version the secondary file. Don't big deal. All I'm saying is if you see a 1, make sure that you just click a paste over it again, double paste, okay? So as I said, I'm going to turn off the node here. Should already be off on the final product, but I'm going to copy and .001, I'm going to paste and then .001, paste again, all right? And then I'm just going to work my way from here to here as I did before. So armature, I'm going to find one to link it. There's already one in there called HHM scale. I'm going to copy by hitting Control C, hover over here, hit Control V. I'm going to come over here. I am going to delete, and it should already be deleted. Actually, it may already have this in here called head. If it does, you just want to double check that it's applied by going into weight paint. Weight paint. And if it's blue, that means these are not assigned to here. The more red, the more they are assigned. If they're red, that means they belong to the head. So in this case, I'm going to go to edit mode, select all, and then assign it to the head. So now when I go back into weight paint, it's red. It lets me know that these actually have weight and they're assigned to the head. I'm going to go and delete the vertex color. As I said, it's not a big deal if you do or don't, but I tend to. I'm going to go into my materials. Now this is this is up to you. Because it is a bone, technically, it shouldn't shine so much. But if you want to give it a really intense shine, put it on 1. If you want to give it a really dull shine, give it on 0.2. And then see how you can kind of see here. If you go into solid object mode, you kind of see the shine. You'll see what happens if I turn it up. Well, you'll see it more on the object here. I think 0.2 is pretty dull enough. It's where it gives it just a little bit shine, because some bone, if it's left out for a while, it does kind of grant a little oil and glossiness to it. And you're just going to leave it as is. Okay? And then I'm going to go into my textures here. And I am going to go ahead, and as I stated, this doesn't matter. I'm going to try doing this right now. What I'm going to do is, I noticed I don't have, this is what I messed up earlier, is I don't have a tint map. Okay? I don't have a tint map in here, so we'll have to assign that ourselves. More likely, that is the last process you'll have to do manually. Simply because I don't want to make the mistake of putting it in the wrong area and screwing you up. I'd rather just leave it as is. I'll try to see if I can automatically apply all the tint maps already in here, but I can't guarantee anything just because that gets a little wonky, and I just don't want to lead you astray. So pretty much you are going to assign the diffuse and the normal map. To do that, you are simply, and I don't think I have a tint map, by the way, for these. I don't. So I'm sorry, the bones just come out black. If you want to color them yourself, you'd have to create your own tint map. All right. So I'm just going to leave these as is. So for bones, you don't have to worry about the tint map. Just pretty much copy this name, and it should have the QM horn. These already should be. I just want to make sure I put the right ones in there, and they are DDS files. Okay, QM horn 01 and D and QM horn 01 under A underscore N. I'm going to just, they're already named, so that's fine. You can kind of, if you like, you can delete the instance. Up to you. I'm going to do that just to play cleanup, because I tend to feel better when I do stuff like that. And same thing here, just in case for some reason it's looking for a PNG, it won't matter, but I just did cleanup anyway. And then I'm pretty much done. I'm ready to export, except one thing I said is whenever you import a new head, because I'm using an old head, this is already set to receive shadows. We want to set this now to receive shadows, and it is, which is good. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm just going to give a quick brief rundown. For horns, we applied it, we made our changes in the scene, and then we did the technical work. Technical work is make sure that this is the name, We made sure that it applies to an armature, which it does. We made sure that the mesh name matches the object name. We made sure that the vertex, all the vertex are assigned to the head, because that's what it's going to move it. The head is going to be going to control where it moves. Okay, and then we're going to go into the materials. We make sure that the material name matches the object name, and it does. We turned our specularity to 0.2, which is just dull enough where a bone should be. You can turn it up if you really want shiny horns. You want to make your horns more glossy, more reflective in the light. That's fine. You can do that too. Okay. Made sure our shadows were received on cast. We made sure that we didn't have this selected. We unselected that, which it should be by the time I finish the blend scene. And then we made sure that our textures in the next slot over are resembled to the file names itself, such as these two. And it is. So all we did is just some cleanup. We took out the .001.png, the instance numbers and stuff like that. And then now we're ready to export. So I'm going to go to File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2. Since we're in the same scene, it automatically saves your export options. But for some reason, if you're starting all over from scratch, you want to make sure you have Mesh as a head, Smooth TS Scenes, and Cut Scenes selected. Then you're going to go into where you want to export your face to. And in this case, we're overriding phase 4, okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and click that and override phase 4. Now, I also want to note, if you want to just create a whole new head from this head, all you have to do is change this to 5. Change this to I5. We have no 5 at the moment, okay? And change this number to 5, all right? Now, that's part 1. Step 2 is, as always, we want to make sure that the 3 match. So when I say the 3 match is, we want to make sure that this head 5 now matches, we renamed the mesh to head 5 and the object to head 5. Textures don't matter, okay? Because textures are applied differently. Same thing for the eye. Press Control, select all, Control C, and copy that, paste that to the eye mesh and the eye material. And the same goes for the beard, or in this case, horns. Copy the horn named object and paste it to the head, and to the mesh, and paste it to the material. All right, now that we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this name of the actual head. You may see that I always revert to that at the end. It's just a habit. And go to Export, File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2. And if I don't have these selected, which you should, select those 3. And I'm just going to go to Override, go in here. And since we don't have a phase 5, I'm just going to press, since I copied it from the name earlier, I'm just going to press Control V. If not, write it in just like that and press Export. Okay. And then now if we go into our actual mod folder, we have a head 5 in there. That's how you make an MDB from the Blender scene. Except that, as I stated in the previous tutorial, copy and paste the skeleton and rename the skeleton to Scale 5 because you want to have a scale file for every head file that you make. Now that we've done that, we're ready to start the game, except that we haven't added these horns in. So I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste them into our directory. Now, it may get a little congested up here at some point, so you may want to do some editing yourself. Some are great at working like this, some aren't. It's up to you. You can organize however you like. But just remember, when you open up a new MDB file, if the texture that associates to that MDB is not within the same directory, you have to manually go fish for it. Okay, and assign it, or else you won't see it, and all of these will turn out black, and you'll get something like like that going on, where it's not physically associated. And so just kind of giving you an idea. So now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up Neverwinter Nights 2. And keep in mind, now that we have all our files in the same spot, and we have our beard model fixed, not beard, we have our horn model fixed. And see how quick that took me? That took me just a few minutes to, and that was me explaining it as I went. If I wasn't explaining it, and you do this long enough, you know, you just, and it's not, I'm not really trying to show off how fast I can be. I'm trying to show you that if you do this a few times over, and I'm not talking about months and months of training, do this a few times over, and if you grasp the concept of how easy it can be, you shortcut it, and you're just like, click here, click there, click here, click there, and you're done. Now, next head that you made, let's add this beard to this head. Click here, click here, click here, click there, and you're done, you know? Create character. Next, 1, 2, 3. zoom in. Okay, and that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Now phase 4 are horns. Now this is phase 4. We also have a phase 5 because we remember we made a phase 5 just by changing those things in Blender. Okay, and so phase 4 and phase 5 are pretty much the same. But let's go to phase 4 and let's go to toggle hair, and lo and behold, there are our horns just by a toggleable option. Now you don't have to make them a toggleable option. You can permanently put them on the head, but that requires some editing to the actual diffuse map, which means you'll have to find a way to move these UVs onto the face map and find space for them. I was able to achieve it on some of my models for Baldur's Gate, the Sword Coast Chronicles mod, where I was able to, I made a way to, on my recent heads, to apply these horns, and I made space on the actual diffuse maps to put all the horns, and I redid the UVs, and that allowed me, when I click this, to get a beard as the horns are already affixed. Now, I don't think I've put that in game yet. I gotta double check. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Because what I did is I actually put the horns onto the head and I merged the skin over the horns a little bit, so it kind of looks like they're protruding from the head. Now that's just, maybe I'll release that pack on the vault sometime. Now, I'm just gonna go forward so I can always view it like this. But pretty much there's your tiefling. Now, granted, if you were making a tiefling, you'd probably want to sharpen the eyes and the beard, some of the points a little more and stuff like that, and change out the eyes. You may want to do that. Okay. File, load. And because we did pull, I think we did pull the eyes, did we? No, we just pulled the human eyes. Never mind. I was going to show you what you could do if you just switched out the eyes, but I did provide some other eyes in your original Blender scene, Blender files here. Eye textures. You have some halfling and you have some Aasimar looking ones and tiefling. And if you open up those files, you can edit the textures, edit your own eyes, but you can switch out to the cat eyes and stuff like that. But like I said, when I get to the next portion of showing you how to modify the face in Blender using the same technique of just going in and selecting a point, make sure everything is set to snap to symmetry, and then just kind of grabbing here and just turning on X mirror, just like you did with the beards, and then want to pull this in. Maybe actually I'll show you now, just real quickly. I'm just going to do a quick edit, pull those in. I'm going to kind of pull this down a little more, make that really pointy. And now this is really animated. It's not really in anyone's particular style. Okay, I'm going to press G, bring it in, maybe give it like a more droopy. Okay, maybe pull it out, and then click here, press G, and just really pinch the nose to bring it in, and then maybe pull it up some, give them like an up nose. Okay, and then what I want to do is, since that's phase 5, go to File, Export Neverwinter Nights 2, since I already had it all saved for that. Go to my mod faces and just re-overwrite phase 5. And since it's live, the edits you make are live in game. Since it already has a phase 5 model in it, it knows what to identify. And so this is phase 4. I'm going to go to phase 5. And there's our difference. See what happened there? We went from this to this easily by just modifying and saving. So I didn't think I'd get over that tutorial pretty quick, but that's all there is to modifying faces. You know, I'm going to go back in here, and if you want to play it smart, I mean, there's a process to this. I usually select these 3 heads, or these 3. And as long as it's on X mirror, whatever I do here will modify to this side. I'm just going to press 3 to go on the side, press grab, and just kind of, I want to make sure I have this selected though. Not enabled, but connected, which means it's only going to move the ones that are connected closest to it and not the ones within the proximity of the circle, which means it'd be moving this head too. So I'm going to press something like G, bring it out, okay, then press S to scale it in, okay, maybe deselect some different ones, maybe, you know, press S, sharpen it a little more again, press G to bring it out even more, and now we have, you know, maybe press G, bring it in a little bit to kind of pull out the ear some, And then, you know, you got to play with it. It takes some getting used to, but I promise you it is simple. It is not hard to do. Now, I did these quickly. I don't think I did these how I normally would do them. Because I usually, my method is a lot different. I don't use vertex mode. I use face mode. But pretty much just like that, okay? And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of give them a... Here, let's Alright, so File, Export, Neverwinter Nights 2, Mod Faces, Face 5, go into Game, click on him, off him, then back on him, and now we have sharp ears. Now, those are crudely done. Crudely done. If you really get in there and you have some fun with it, and you're trying to make a face as if you're not just trying to put it in tomorrow, spend some actual time doing it, you can get some really interesting results, especially since I showed you how to do the maps and apply those different faces. I mean, now that I'm sure some of you have seen this, you're like, holy crap, the things I am going to make. And that's exactly what I'm trying to show here, what you can do. You can actually modify this entire face to be a different race altogether. You know, you can change out the eyes, you can add beards, you can add horns, move the horns around, sharpen the ears, pull out this, just using Blender and using those simple techniques. It's already set so all the things are mirrored. It has all the textures assigned to it, and all you gotta do is just turn on proportional editing and grab your little blocks here and just start moving stuff around. Okay? Alright, so now that we've shown you all that, that's pretty much how to add a beard and add a horns, and pretty much how to modify the Blender file to create your own monster. If I get a chance toward the very end, I'll make a quick advanced techniques type tutorial, and in that I'll show you how to do some interesting things as far as morphing goes, and maybe adding a thing or two into the face. Okay, stay tuned for the next tutorial where I'll show you how to edit your tint map to allow you to have colorable eyebrows if you so choose, paint markings and stuff like that if you want them. All right, thanks a lot everybody again for participating and for following along. And until next time, do take care.